Hello again for the California Elder Law Center. This is Michael McGuire, elder law attorney. You know, the last session we talked about eligibility, we talked about income, we talked about is it legal? Are you entitled to take your deductions? Just like you take your deductions with the IRS, you can take your deductions with Medi-Cal, you can take your deductions with the Veterans Administration because they say so. You can look up Title 22 in California, that's where all the rules are, that's the rule book for Medi-Cal. You can look up the federal rules and regulations underneath Title 38. That's where the VA's rules are. That's the rule book that everybody lives by. Same thing as going to the IRS and looking up the tax code. Now here's another big myth. There's a huge myth out there that people will tell you that if I get access to benefits to help me pay for long-term care for my mother and my father in a nursing home, we're going to lose the house. We have to give the house away. They're going to put a lien on the house. But here's the truth. That is a myth. You never have to give up your home. Nobody ever in California has to lose their house because they access long-term care. That's the rule. Those are the rules. Now you need to know how you go about doing that. You know, something that's interesting is the state of California puts out rules. They even put out warnings to people. They warn you over and over again, we're going to take some action against your house if you don't protect it. Now we talked about this in the beginning of our little series, that your living trust, your revocable trust isn't going to help protect your house. That's for sure. It won't. Do they put liens on houses in California? You bet they do, and they brag about it. They put over $80 million in asset liens against property in California and recovery. That's called the recovery process. $80 million, middle-class families that just didn't know what the rules were. And I will tell you something. The way they go about qualify you, now we're talking about assets, not income, we're done with that. Now we're talking about assets. The way they qualify you is a pretty simple process. They create 3 buckets and they put your assets into 3 buckets. There's an bucket for the things you can keep, there's a bucket for the things you cannot keep, and there's a bucket for the things you can keep if they're retirement accounts. Now I'm going to go through in this next session each of those buckets because each of those buckets has different rules. What's in the bucket of the things you're allowed to keep? You're allowed to keep, for instance, your furniture, your household goods. You're allowed to keep a car. You're allowed to keep up to $1,500 cash value in a life insurance policy. If you have a term life insurance policy, they don't care about it at all. You're allowed to keep a prepaid burial plan. Here's news. This is a program of the heart. You're allowed to keep your wedding band. And oh yeah, you're allowed to keep your house. How long are you allowed to keep that house? You're allowed to keep the house as long as you're alive. And then it starts to get tricky. Middle bucket, stuff you can't keep more than. They got some specific rules, things like bank accounts, CDs, money market accounts, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, rental property. In the third bucket, stuff that you can keep if it's a retirement account. That would include things like 401ks, 403bs, IRA accounts. So I'm going to go through each of these things in greater detail here in the next session, but let's kill that myth right now about you can't keep your house. Let's kill the myth they're going to put a lien on your property. They're only going to put a lien on your property if you don't do something. So let's talk about what you could do. Let's talk about what you should do to answer those 2 critical questions that keep coming up here. How am I going to pay for my care? And who's going to take care of me? I'm going to see you in the next session. This is a very important session coming up, so stay tuned. Thanks.